All right, welcome everyone to the Peak Performance Summit, creating harmony between mind, body, and nutrition. I am here with Ilona Poka. She is a mindset mastery coach, transformational speaker, and mental fitness expert. With over 2 decades of experience in real estate and personal development, she is a assist certified in suicide intervention, has facilitated mental health programs for NAMI, and has studied with leaders like Joe Dispenza, Bob Proctor, and Gabor Matt as the creator of Thrive in Seven, a journey to release, rewire, and rebuild, and founder of the Thriving Sisterhood. Ilona empowers people to rewire their brains, manage stress, and break free from trauma using neuroscience-backed strategies. She is also the recipient of the Katie Lance Woman of Strength Award for her work in mental health advocacy. And do you have anything else to add to that amazing resume, Ilona?
No, I think, that was a lot. And as you're reading it, I was like, wow, that sounds pretty good. Yes, and all very true. My passion for mental health. I mean, I have my bachelor's degree in psychology, so I feel, that I've really been doing a lot of the work for 30 years.
Yeah,
It's and my major was psychology, and I felt like, well, that helps in any career that you're doing. And then over the years I dove back into it. I think being in real estate, you have to learn how to, work with different personalities. Um, and then, I had experienced my own childhood trauma, so I feel firsthand the things that I'm able to, help people. Like I've been there, I understand what
yeah.
people, what they've gone through and how to overcome it. And then, so it was overcoming my own childhood trauma. And then there were also family members that I have that live with mental illness.
Okay.
And so taking that combination and the stigma in my own family was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And for me, it was interesting, even different family members and how my reaction was to it, right?
Hmm.
And how I handled it. And, so I took a class at National Alliance on Mental Illness. That was the NAMI, NAMI, for family, um, to learn more about mental illness and my family member. And then I ended up facilitating the classes. And then I ended up teaching Ending the Silence, where I'd go to junior high and high school students and I'd talk about suicide prevention. I think, your focus is nutrition, right? Like we need to be healthy in all of these different ways. And just like we're doing reps at the gym for our bodies, we get to do reps for our brain to keep our brain going. And I mean, there's been extensive studies on this, and Gabor Mate goes into it, and he talks about, when we experience trauma, it's not necessarily what happened to us, it's
Hmm.
how our body reacted.
Yeah.
Right, like what, and so two people could experience the same things and have different perceptions.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons why my sister and I don't speak, right? Because we have totally different perspectives of how life was growing up and who was responsible and who wasn't. And so, all of that life, right, that happens, really inspired me. And, I peeled back the onions of my own journey and then found passion in teaching others. In being in real estate and um, careers like that where there's high pressure environments, people who've experienced trauma or especially childhood trauma, we show up differently.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know, yeah, I always say that, in real estate, because that's where I've been, it like the really great agents who are on the ball and like, they had really chaotic childhoods,
Yeah.
right? Because then they want when your childhood is so chaotic, in your adult life, you want everything organized and you want everything perfect.
Yeah.
And and you're people pleasing, and you want to you say yes, you please and appease, or you have control issues where nobody else can do it as good as you, so delegation
Yeah.
is not a thing, right?
Hmm.
And overworking, that was one of my things in the beginning of real estate. I was working 14, 15-hour days, and I was just exhausted and I wasn't getting anywhere.
Yeah.
And so, it in rewiring my nervous system, getting out of that fight, flight, freeze, and fawn response, um,
Hmm.
that blocks our clarity, it blocks our confidence and our creativity. So, learning how to respond instead of react,
Yes. Yes.
right? Like taking a deep breath and pausing for a moment and not letting that automatic pattern have its way. And so, that's what I teach people, to respond rather than react.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, and that's our brain. That's our brain's function, is to automatically protect us. And so, doing different things, that I teach will help people rewire that response.
I love that. I love that, especially like when you were talking about going into the schools and speaking on the suicide prevention and things like that. I had some people that I've played sports with, growing up who, have done that. And being in the military, I've had other soldiers and leaderships that have done that. So that's huge. So I
Yeah.
respect everything that you do. And so off of that, you know, we're going to be talking today about powerful tools, minds to optimize your mindsets and build resilience and harness your brain's potential for success. So you specialize in helping high achievers rewire their brains. So can you explain how trauma and stress affect performance, decision making, especially in those high pressure moments that we were just talking about?
Yeah, the first thing I think is the awareness. We either you can feel yourself being or held back for some reason, or you're not achieving what you want and you're struggling. Like life is not meant to be a struggle. I it's but when we've experienced trauma, you know, we go into that fight, flight, or freeze, and sometimes it could be a combination of all of them.
Hmm.
And our brain automatically responds. I had a woman said, "Well, what do you mean? If I really wanted something, if my brain wasn't in alignment with it, that I wouldn't be able to move forward?" And I said, "Absolutely.
Yeah.
It thinks it's protecting you."
Hmm.
And so it's rewiring, that response to create a different outcome. And so being in those stressful situations, brings you into those trauma responses, and and it blocks what's naturally coming to you. And so it's finding that, and it's releasing it, right? And it may not be all smiles and great things, um, but I always give people tools up front. And
Hmm.
then, I touch on the sensitive subject, but then I do something else after it to bring you back up.
Yeah.
I don't want people sitting in that space. I want them to sit there for a minute, heal what they got to heal, and then let's move forward.
Yeah.
And giving them tools, right? I feel, when I see when I see homeless people, I think, I don't know where my brain goes sometimes, but I'm like, wow, if these people could know the tools that I teach, or, that there's a different choice, that they don't have to stay stuck in that mindset, or they don't have to, end their life, right?
Hmm.
That there's things that they can do, and retrain their brain to make different decisions and to think differently. I feel like I've gotten to the point where, like, I have that quiet time,
Yeah.
and I have rewired my brain so much that, like, I now sing positive songs in my brain when I have that time. Like, my brain
Yeah.
doesn't go to that negativity. It goes to that singing those positive songs,
Hmm.
because at all other times of the day, right? Like, I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I start my meditations, and I listen to really positive music that, I am the light, and
Yeah.
like, and I'm allowing great beautiful things to come to me. And so, listening to that, consistently, I've now rewired my brain so that when I have those moments of doubt and negativity, that I can go to that more easily. And there's other things, right? Like, that's just something new for me that
Yeah.
I've learned about myself. Like, oh wow, that feels really good not to, you know, go to that negative thoughts, or if I do go to that negative thought, to bring myself back, right? Like, oh
Yeah.
no, I am not all of that negative stuff in my brain.
Mm. And is there something that you like that triggers you to know that, like, all right, I need to bring myself back right now?
Yes, yes. I mean, okay, so this, my aunt was just diagnosed with cancer. She started her chemotherapy, and we are on a family text. And because I speak about these things, a lot of my family doesn't talk to me. And so, one of the people I didn't know there, and she kind of, I didn't know her phone number. I know who she is.
Yeah.
And she made a snide remark. And my first was like, who is she?
Yeah.
There's a reason you're not important enough to have me be saved in my phone book, right? Like,
Uh-huh.
that was how I wanted to respond. And then I was like, no, no, like, just come from peace, Alana. Like, everybody is where they are. Right. And I have to respect where they are. And they may not respect where I am, but I get to respect where they are. And so just let it go. And that was just a couple of hours ago.
Yeah.
And that's life, right? Like, I feel like there's always going to be those things that come into life that test us.
For sure.
And it's, what choice are we going to make? I could make the choice to be snarky, right? And, oh, you must not be important enough because I don't have you saved in my phone book, Or
Yeah.
I could be like, whatever, and the whatever, and coming from love and coming from peace, I mean, you can't top that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that feels so much better for me. Like, my body, I can feel the difference on letting it go or being snarky about it. And, like, being snarky, I feel the tension in my body,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
that's not good for us.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things too that's like sometimes, like, when you kill them with that kindness, that affects them more than you being snarky and making a rude comment. Like,
Yeah.
they're expecting you to do that, so that's what they're ready for. So when
Yeah.
you come with the other side, it's like, whoa, like, what is wrong? What's wrong with this person? Like, why didn't they respond the way that I wanted them to?
Yes. Yeah. And, and that feels better for me. So, let them, they're going to think what they want to think anyway.
Exactly.
So, and I'm just gonna keep continuing living my life for me.
Yeah. So and with that, so your program Thrive and Seven, that
Yes.
is designed to help people release, rewire, and rebuild. Can you walk us through what that process looks like and how it creates lasting changes?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, we start by I said we go back to the past a little bit. We release some of that stored emotional stress, and we begin to, learn some tools and techniques, just breathing, right? Like,
Yeah.
okay, if you get triggered, our shallow breaths are just not good for us.
Hmm.
So I give people tools and techniques. Then we start rewiring the limiting beliefs and the trauma responses and creating different responses for that. One of them including, breathing, then rebuilding their mindset for success, right? Like
Yeah.
going back and what was it that you felt that you needed as a kid and then giving it to yourself now.
Hmm.
Right, and doing that visualization and that, the just this shifting of your mindset, which you talk about all the time, which I love, and nutrition, and regulating your nervous system, right? Because like Gabor Mate says, it's what happens to our body. It's not necessarily what happened, but it's how our body reacted
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of the techniques that I use are based in neuroscience, breath work, visualization, the mindset shifts, nervous system regulation. The goal isn't just to feel better, it's to become so mentally fit that you could lead and perform and live both personally and professionally with purpose and peace.
I love that. That's perfection. And that I think the key thing that you just said to for me was professionally and personally.
Yeah.
And I find people find it hard to do both, so they choose one, and most of the time they choose the professional and leave the personal life to fall down because it's personal. It's not, professionally, you have all the eyes in the world looking at you, your bosses, your coworkers. You want to be better than them. So that those two things that you said, I think a lot of people don't connect the two.
They don't. And I can attribute to my own life. When I did the inner work for myself,
Hmm.
I created more in my businesses. I didn't have to work as hard.
Yeah.
I don't work 8 hours a day. Like
Yeah.
I have my day scheduled where I am enjoying life as much as I am working hard.
Hmm. I love that. That's perfect. And that's the goal for what we want, in life. That is the real goal. So you've studied with renowned leaders, thought leaders like Joe Dispenza, um, Gabor Mate, and how have those teachings, shaped your approach to mental fitness and transformation?
There are two of my favorite people. Um, Doctor, they've really changed everything for me. Hold on, I need to take a sip there. Dr. Joe Dispenza, he helped me really understand the science of neuroplasticity,
Okay.
and how we can literally, I know some people are going to have a hard time with this, but we could literally become somebody new by choosing different thoughts and emotions every day. Right, I know it's a little hard, but you can if you put the work in, right? It's like with your nutrition. If you put it in every day, you will see the results. You will
Yeah.
create a different body,
Yeah.
right? If you go from eating McDonald's every day to changing your nutrition, that will show up physically for you. And so it's just the same thing with your brain. Um, and Gabor Mate, he's the one who taught me about how trauma is stored in our bodies. It's
Hmm.
not what happens to us, it's what happens inside of us. And so I've combined those teachings with my own experience and mental health training to create a framework that's both compassionate and effective.
Hmm.
I'm really clear, it's about healing the roots and not just treating the symptoms. And I hold a very safe space where there's no judgment. And everybody gets to heal from where they're at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And so with those two, and I have to ask because you know I know Joe, Dr. Joe. I've seen his stuff, but Matei, I haven't heard much of him. Do you have any other people that you would throw into that category for the listeners to like kind of tap into where they can get some some lessons and things like that also?
Well, I I broke my leg last year in three places, and
Oof.
yeah, it's been a journey. I I felt, I've fallen on the roller rink floor, and
Mhm.
so I felt like my brain was a little moshed.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't actually listen to Dr. Joe. He was a little too much.
Uh-huh.
It was, I don't know, my brain was just like, we can't comprehend that right now,
Yeah.
Alana. And so I listened to Louise Hay.
Okay.
To me, she has that very motherly, loving, voice.
Hmm.
And so I love Hay House on YouTube.
Yeah.
When I first started this journey, I watched The Secret, and then I took all of those people in The Secret and I followed them on YouTube, and that really began my journey in personal development. And that had Louise Hay, Wayne Dyer, Michael Beckwith, Louise Hay, Wayne Dyer, yeah, those are, I would say, Michael Braden. There's Hay House has a bunch of different authors. So
Okay.
I really love that. But Gabor and Dr. Joe are my favorite. And Louise Hay. She's
All
that
right.
motherly
Awesome.
figure for me.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay. And so what practical tools or daily rituals do you recommend to people to shift, to help them shift from survivor mode to a mindset of resilience and clarity? And I know we've spoken about some of the things that you do, but is there anything else like with that? Can you go into a little bit more detail?
Sure. First is our breath work, breathing. Most people, we breathe shallow, right? We don't think about our breathing. Our body just breathes for us. Um, and when we continuously breathe shallow like that, it's actually signals our brain that we're in danger.
Hmm.
And so the breathing helps you regulate your nervous system. And so, I like to explain it where, when I don't know, I must have been like 5 or 6 years old in kindergarten or first grade. And there was this little boy and he was just sobbing, right? Like, you ever see a sobbing kid and they're like,
Yep.
they're crying so bad. And the teacher told him to take like 5 deep breaths, right? And he took 5 deep breaths, and all of a sudden, his whole body and energy just calmed down. He stopped crying. He was breathing okay. And that was a sign of him, regulating his nervous system.
Hmm.
And just from taking 5 deep breaths. And so, like one of the things I tell people when we start my coaching program is put a reminder, these phone things. I actually put my phone away while we're on. Put reminders on your phone to take a deep breath. Start with 3 times a day. Just take a deep breath. And we increase that as we go along. But the more you do it, then the more you'll go back to that.
Yeah.
Right. And then the second is awareness. I teach people how to recognize when they may get triggered,
Mm,
right? Or they may be reacting to an old pattern, right?
hmm.
Like for me with this morning, like I was reacting in an old pattern being
Yeah,
snarky, like my New Yorker was coming out at me.
yeah,
So, but however, I interrupted it though, right? It was like, okay, no, Alana, take yourself back, really think about, don't don't get caught up in the moment. Don't go to that old pattern. Go to the rewired pattern,
yeah.
right? Like it just needs a little bit more muscle. Um, then I also use a technique called the coloring method. And so what that is, of course I set the tone and the space for, just people being open. And I start with questions and they color in circles. And so while I ask the question and they're coloring in their circle and they're thinking about the answer, they're actually rewiring their brain.
Huh.
So yeah, pretty,
Interesting.
yeah, it's really, really cool. And then people are like, oh my God, it really works.
Yeah.
Um, and I did not create the coloring method. That is from somebody else. That is part of my program. I didn't. I've taken tools right from
Hmm.
every all different people and created my own thing.
Yeah.
And mental fitness is just like physical fitness. It requires daily reps.
Yeah. Yeah. And so with the mental fitness, is there any games or anything that like you can do on your own?
Um, I don't know games. I've
I,
not looked into that. Do you know of any?
no, I was thinking of there's an app that's like it's like mind games, I think. Um, uh,
You know what? Learning in general, like learning new things helps keep your brain fit. And so, you never want to I just watched a special on Alzheimer's and, sleep, right? Like getting good sleep, but also keeping your brain active and learning new things, taking risks, doing something outside of the box. My mom just turned 80 and, she's like, "Oh, I don't want to try that special. It sounds," and I'm like, "Would you just take a risk?" Right?
yeah,
Like, or take a different route to work, right? Like have your brain, you're so used to that drive to work that you don't even think about it, right? And you're home. And
automatic.
so
Yeah,
yeah, so take a different route, right? Like use your left hand instead of your right hand all the time. Do that is really how you keep your brain in check, right? Like doing different things. And yes, there's games, but I mean, it could just be in your daily life,
yeah.
changing up your routine. I like to get up and, go start a fire while it's still a little chilly here in Arizona in the mornings at 5 a.m. And so to switch it up, I might, go take my dog for a walk before, but that keeps your brain going and, building those muscles to keep, and it helps with old age, and the more we keep learning over the years, the more healthier our brains will be when we're older.
Yes, absolutely. So, and what I'm hearing from that is what you said is keep it simple, make it easy, you know, as simple as using your left hand instead of your right hand, driving, if you're driving to work, take a different turn. So it brings you a different route and you have to like start thinking. Runners, if you run around your neighborhood or anything like that, or you go for your walks, go the opposite way
Yep.
you normally do. So it's those small things and changes that you're talking about that make the lasting results, not trying to do something drastic.
No, I mean, you can, I mean, yeah, but little things it's all about brain fitness. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
anything crazy.
Absolutely. So you work with professionals across, different industries, especially in the real estate. What are the common patterns that you see, in people facing burnout, and how can they reclaim their power?
So burnout often stems from unresolved stress and lack of boundaries. It goes back to those trauma responses of please and appease and, not saying no and being the yes person. In real estate and industries like real estate, people are constantly giving and fixing and performing. We whatever comes along with that, right? Like we're just giving, and a lot of people don't slow down to reset.
Mm,
So they operate from depletion. And that's not good. Like we have to give our bodies time to rest. It's like you can't work out for 24 hours straight, right? Like that is
yeah,
not going to be good for your body.
exactly.
So working your brain all of the time, um, and so a lot of people don't know that they're actually stuck in their trauma responses, but it could look like overcommitting, saying yes to avoid conflict, um, and pushing through that depletion and exhaustion, and I know it, right? Like I've been self-employed for 23, 22 years now,
Uh-huh.
and I've worked from home and, there comes a time where I have to close that door. I didn't always have a separate room for my office.
Yeah.
I would have to close it off to stop, right?
Hmm.
And I felt called to do like more creative things like painting, like I like to refinish furniture. So, that's how I would, use the other side of my brain. But then it helps me in on the other side, right? Because I'm
Yeah.
allowing both sides I'm nourishing both sides of my brain, then I'm more productive. So, reclaiming their power starts with awareness, nervous system regulation, and giving yourself permission to pause, to take that step. Once you do that, you can make choices from true alignment, that best serves you,
Hmm.
not anxiety, not the trauma response. And being able to differentiate that makes all the difference in the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, and as we're coming, to the end of this amazing interview, just really quick, I have a few more questions. The first, where can people find and connect with you?
Well, I am on all social media platforms. Truth Be Told, One World. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Oh, I'm not on Twitter. Um, yeah, no, I won't go on Twitter, and TikTok. And
Hmm.
my email is hello@truthbetold.world. And what else did you? Oh, and I also have a free gift. It
Yes.
Breathing deeply is a gift. And so it's a PDF that you can print out or just look at on your phone and for breathing. So, and as you read it, it kind of walks you through, it does walk you through
Yeah.
things to think about, to calm yourself, to, regulate your nervous system to go into that calm.
I love that. Yes. And what's the link for that?
We're gonna be putting it below, right?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
And do you have a website or anything?
My website is not up full force just yet. However, when it is, it'll be truthbetold.world.
There we go.
But
Nice and
social
simple.
media, yeah.
There we go. Well, again, amazing, amazing person, leader, coach that you are. I am thankful for you taking your time out and jumping on this and sharing these gifts, because they're things that we take for granted. We have them, like you said, breathing is one of the things, we don't think about it. We just naturally do it, and we only notice when something is off when we start breathing fast, and we think it's normal that we're just tired or something like that. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, and we will be connecting definitely. We're both in Arizona, and
Yes.
I heard you say you're from New York, and I'm from Massachusetts, so we're both on the East Coast originally.
Okay, okay. As long as you're not
No, I'm not a Red Sox fan.
okay, okay.
I
I'm
am a
not sure that
Yankees fan. All
you're a
right,
what
well,
fan?
I am a Yankees fan.
Oh, okay,
Yes,
okay. That's one for you then.
yes. All right. Well, everyone, thank you for tuning in to the Peak Performance Summit with Ilona Poka. And we will be dropping the links and everything that she talked about below this video when you are watching it. So thank you again, Ilona, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You as well. Thank you.
Thank you.